We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. A new world order.
Child sex trafficking.
The deep state is trying to destroy Donald Trump's presidency.
Loose the battle plans of heaven.
It's all about control.
Broadcasting live to the world now. It's the Weekend Vigilante, Sheila Zilinsky.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this video from the Weekend Vigilante, Sheila Zilinsky. This video is entitled Illuminati Mind Control, Hollywood Pedophilia, and Bizarre Freemasonic Occultic Rituals. There's a handful. Now, I've already chronicled the Illuminati hypersexualization of children and the Disney pedophilia connection, the Freemason/Disney occult, all that connection I made in a video called The Disney Deception. I've linked that in the description, so I will not be reintroducing that in this particular video, but do check that out. Again, Disney Deception, I've linked it in there in the description. So where I want to start off here is with some really bizarre antics of Katy Perry. Of course, admitting to being an Illuminati slave in Bon Appetit. Allegedly, Perry publicly begged to join the Illuminati in 2014, and her new music video is drenched in occult symbology. Now, before we get into that, Katy Perry, obviously she's the ideal of the modern pop star, young, beautiful, controversial, and completely controlled by the music industry Illuminati. And it's no surprise that her sick, twisted, disgusting, I could barely watch it, video Bon Appetit is infused with very bizarre ritualistic Illuminati symbology. Oddly, Perry made some very public overtures about the Illuminati in 2014 when she said in a Rolling Stone article, hey, if the Illuminati exist, I would like to be invited. I see all that SH blank blank. I see all that you know what, and I'm like, come on, let me in. I want to be in the club. So now fast forward 3 years and Katy Perry is basically demonic Play-Doh. She's like occult clay. She's been at the forefront of the elite's agenda for years, selling her soul to the industry. Now, she released Chained to the Rhythm, a song that heavily promotes the elite's agenda. She introduced this song at the 2017 Grammy Awards with, I might add, a very symbolic live performance. But it was her statements to Ryan Seacrest that raised eyebrows before the show that really revealed her status as a mind control slave. Now, she's heavily controlled by the occult elite, and she is now the chosen celebrity, you could say, to make bizarre headlines, stir up controversy, and basically annoy us with bizarre, mind-numbing antics. She's at the center of this all. She is the selected pawn chosen to undergo the degrading, the entire dehumanization process of being an elite slave. Of course, Katy Perry is walking in the footsteps of the likes of Britney Spears, Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus, Amanda Bynes, and Kanye West, just to name a few.
It's extremely creepy.
Where mass media has a blast covering the strange and humiliating strings of events that they're involved in. And then right on cue, Bon Appetit comes out and confirms Katy Perry's status, industry mind control slave. Now, what's interesting in Bon Appetit, the video, and now you got to remember here she's cooked by chefs and offered as a meal to a party of elite guests. It directly alludes to bizarre rituals the occult elite practice behind closed doors and in plain sight. Now, it's one of those videos that leave viewers with an unpleasant aftertaste, and I think a gut feeling in general. Anybody that watches it thinks something's terribly wrong here. I wonder if it's due to the overt celebration of cannibalism in the video, but more on cannibalism later. The video actually depicts, I'm not going to get too in-depth in the video just for the sake of my own stomach, but the video depicts Perry undergoing a painful process of torture, exploitation, and dehumanization. And then she's used to lure others into that system. I mean, with lines like, got me spread like a buffet. If that alone wasn't degenerate enough for the young viewers of the world, the video turns everything into ritualistic, cannibalistic, bizarro, ritualistic event. She's not being treated like a human being, and literally, I'm talking literally, she is being used for pleasure, treated like a literal piece of meat. No value, no soul, physically abused. It's as if she's become dissociated from reality under mind control by her handlers, this monarch mind control. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll get into that a little more later. The video, and like I said, I'm not going to get into specifics, but I'm just going to tell you that she's, in one scene, she's being thrown in flour while wearing a dress very reminiscent of Marilyn Monroe's iconic dress, Bridget Bardot. Harry is also wearing Monroe-like blonde hair in the scene. Now, Marilyn Monroe and Bridget Bardot were examples of beta sex kitten prototyped controlled slaves as well. We know that elites not only rule the music industry, but of course the film industry as well. That's why I call it Hollyweird. A couple of scenes thrown in boiling water, hair is chopped up, symbolizing a new persona being created, and then her tongue is symbolically flambéed to represent the secret silence that is required. And what is so bizarre about the video is the table scene directly mirrors real-life events organized by one of the most powerful and influential occultists alive today in both entertainment and politics, Marina Abramovich. Here are just a few of the stars that hang out with Marina Abramovich, including none other than occult high priestess herself, Lady Gaga, or Lady Gagme as I call her, who, let's not forget her bizarre comments to Jimmy Kimmel, where she openly admits she just, prays to Lucifer, no big deal.
And I'm like, if you don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer.
Here we see them at an event that took place at the Watermill Center in 2013. In these pictures, you can see them standing before a woman lying at what looks like a pool of blood. And what do guests do? Oh, they scoop the blood up with spoons to eat it up. The event was dubbed Devil's Heaven. You cannot make this stuff up. In another Marina Abramovich event, guests wear lab coats as they partake in cannibalism. Mock cannibalism? Well, you be the judge. Of course, in another event, bizarro world it is, a cake in the likeness of Debbie Harry, Blondie, is cut up and eaten by guests, including guest Debbie Harry. Marina Abramovich likes mock cannibalism. If that's what they do in public events, what are they doing behind closed doors? Abramovich, there's many scenes where Abramovich is standing before models with their innards exposed. It just on and on it goes. This kind of stuff, this is not just the exclusive domain of Abramovich, who, by the way, is a big proponent of Thelema. And of course, ironically, the spirit cooking themed Bon Appetit video is also very closely aligned with Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, who we now know is invited to these occult spirit cooking dinners by Marina Abramovich. Leaked emails reveal that he was invited to many dinners by her. This is John David Podesta, the chairman of the 2016 Hillary Clinton presidential campaign. And guess who he previously served as chief of staff? President Clinton. Oh, and what else did he do in his impressive bio? He was a counselor to President Barack Obama. Marina also is known for painting on walls instructions coded in classic occult matter. Spirit cooking actually refers to a sacrament in the religion of Thelema, which was founded by Aleister Crowley, who I'll talk more about in a minute. Now, what is she painting with, you say? You don't even want to know. It is a concoction straight from Hell's Kitchen. What does it contain? Menstrual blood, breast milk, urine, and sperm. That's the paint mix. Now, why would an occultist, especially the artist to the stars Marina Abramovich, why would she be in direct and friendly contact with people at the highest levels of power? Because they're all part of it. She's considered to be the grandmother of performance art. But you know what? Most of her work takes place in private settings where she conducts high-level witchcraft magic ritual. She's a very powerful figure in pop culture, and she is greatly influential in Hollywood the fashion world, and of course the music industry. On this cover of Vogue Ukraine, Marina Abramovich represents the stronghold of occultists in the fashion world. And here we see her holding up a goat's head by the horns, a classic way of representing the drawing of magical power from the Baphomet. Here we see her in the New Yorker, the serpent hiding one eye, the perfect way to represent being a pawn of the occult elite. Isn't it interesting that Marina's Twitter name is @Obramovic M666? You starting to see the dots connecting here? One of the things that came out in email leaks was an email from August 29, 2008. A senior government staffer writes to Hillary Clinton, "With fingers crossed, the old rabbit's foot, out of the box in the attic, I will be sacrificing a chicken in the backyard to Moloch." Thanks to WikiLeaks, Hillary Clinton's email archive containing 30,000 plus emails, free to search by the way, we now have more concrete proof that Hillary Clinton and other globalist elites have occultic ties. In fact, it's said that Hillary Clinton herself is a high-level witch who's frequented covens in California for the past 2 decades. Come on, guys. Nobody randomly uses Moloch in a conversation. Most people don't even know what Moloch is. But Bohemian Grove and that cast of characters, that ilk, that miscreant that flies out to a 2,700-acre campground deep in Montreal, California, a property which, by the way, belongs to private San Francisco-based men's art club known as the Bohemian Grove. What does it do in mid-July of each year? Yeah, it's coming up. It hosts a 2-week occult confab consisting of some of the most prominent men in the world. And what do? Well, they gather around Moloch in a ritualistic sacrifice that is straight out of the pit of hell. And for those that say, it's just an eccentric party, oh yeah, it's a mishmash of hookers and homosexuals, young male prostitutes who are often underage, which ties back in to the obsession these weirdos have for young boys. As far as I'm concerned, it is Camp Pedogate. And this goes on every July just north of San Francisco, basically the gay capital of America. Isn't that lovely? So what is Moloch, the biblical Canaanite god associated with child sacrifice? What is this deity that's referred to in Jeremiah 32:35? And also they built the high places of Baal. Demon gods Baal and Moloch? What does that have to do with anything? Forget the 40-foot Moloch statue at Bohemian Grove. There's a Moloch/Baal on every street corner in America, and it's called Planned Parenthood, where it sells baby body parts to the highest bidder. Do you know that aborted fetuses are put in a lot of the stuff that we eat today? Talk about your frankenfoods. Is that acclimating us to cannibalism, which now is the #1 trendy show on Netflix? Thelema, Theosophy, Satanism, Luciferians in the occult, the Freemasons. This is all tied together. And what is the common connection of it all? It is the worship of Satan. It all ties together with even the Kabbalah. And King Solomon really was the poster child for the Kabbalah, really the progenitor of the occult, at least bringing it into the church. Milcom, Moloch, and Chemosh, they were abomination of the Ammonites. The Ammonites were a real bunch of devils. And of course, Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma attributes King Solomon's evil to the foundation of Freemasonry. Interesting little side note, in the teachings of the Kabbalah, Shekinah is God's female part, sort of like yin and yang, male and female. Now, thank goodness that King Hezekiah destroyed a lot of that stuff, the bronze serpent. And for those of you that don't know, I'll summarize the Kabbalah part by saying this. It's important to understand that it will be the Kabbalah system that gives rise to the Antichrist. The Kabbalah is Satan's gospel. And you know what? The Old Testament prophets were diametrically opposed to this, and they talked about this. Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, they thundered against the evil, devilish Antichrist Kabbalah. Sabbatai Sevi and Jacob Frank really were evil personified, and you can do more studies on the Zohar, the Jewish mystics, It's a blend of mysticism and sorcery. It's really witchcraft. It's high-level black magic occult witchcraft is what it is that goes right into Thelema, Aleister Crowley, Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky. And it was Walt Disney that had a very close ongoing acquaintance with Anton LaVey, the author of the Satanic Bible and the leader of the Church of Satan. And likewise, Anton LaVey considered Walt Disney to be a very high-level satanic guide. Anton LaVey was the one that revealed that Walt Disney and Petrovich Mussorgsky, the Russian composer who wrote the orchestral tone, the poem Night on Bald Mountain, it was featured in Disney's Fantasia by the same name, a very satanic theme. And again, it wasn't just Fantasia. He often placed satanic themes, occult images in all of his movies. Not just satanic themes, but sexual, satanic, and hidden occult symbolism and imagery. That was his trademark signature. The 666, the number of the beast of Revelation 13, is all throughout his logo. Big fan of Aleister Crowley, who self-identified with that same name, by the way, by calling himself the Megatherion, the great beast. So it's not bad enough that you have this whole cornucopia of witches, wizards, Wiccans, Chaldeans, Baal worshippers, Moloch lovers. If it isn't after-school Satan clubs coming to elementary school, it's not bad enough our kids are getting a steady diet of Katy Perry and Miley Cyrus and all these other occult degenerates. Well, you've got the highest-selling books of 2016, 2017. Harry Potter. What was his last book called? Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Potterheads all over the world are being taught to use incantations, hexes, vexes, divination, sorcery, witchcraft. These books are straight out of the pit of hell. And by the way, parents, if you do buy books called A Cursed Child, I'll tell you what, it will come with a little extra. When you introduce your child to witchcraft, that comes with a curse. Because you know what? All this Harry Potter and Walt Disney, all of it is nothing more than candy-coated witchcraft. And look at all the cannibalistic themes everywhere now. Drew Barry. It's not just on Netflix, it's everywhere. And that connects into the pedophilia. They say that young blood, we now know that blood-drinking billionaires harvest the blood of children. It ties into cannibalism. It ties into Pizzagate. They're drinking children's blood. Yeah, that's right. The elite drink the blood of children. Bloodlust, blood sacrifice, cannibalism, ritualistic sacrifices. Look at all the human sacrifice themes we see. Look at what they called a fake human sacrifice filmed at CERN. It was just pranking scientists. This is mainstream headlines. Another satanic ritual to unveil the Gothard train tunnel. We are getting a steady flow of all these occult rituals. If it wasn't the Rio Olympics, all the Olympics, it's every Grammy ceremony, every Super Bowl. We've even got an Illuminati card game. Nationwide outbreak of demonic possession. Has a plague of demons? Has that been unleashed on America? Demons in the toy chest, the floodgates of hell are all now open. A woman told police she was raped by a Pokemon. And this was a woman that didn't just fall off a turnip truck. This is a professional woman. I talk about that in a documentary I did last year that I've also included in the description called Pokemon Go. Demons in devices. I mean, all these weird things happening. You've got Stars, Lucy Liu saying she was raped by demons. Puffy Combs joins in on that one. Oh, Incubus Succubus. Bring me pig blood. A Thai model is possessed by cannibal ghosts during a live TV interview. That is straight out of a scene of the Gadarene demoniac. And remember the hospital drops abortionist after his demonic rant saying he loves killing babies? And also in light of the world waking up to Hampstead, McMartin, the pedophilia, the Pizzagate, Comet Ping Pong, what we were calling Pedogate, Pizzagate. I was covering this years ago, way before it became Pizzagate. I was covering Pedogate. Ted Gunderson, what he came out with, Sandusky Gate, the Franklin cover-up, the McMartin pedophilia scandal, the Lolita Island Express with Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire convicted of pedophilia. He received a very soft sentence. His island was rigged with video recorders. Slick Billy Clinton repeatedly flying off to Pervert Island as well. Some of the highest levels of Congress and deep state kingpins have been involved in sex trafficking children. Opal Singleton was on my show, the author of Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenager, said right on record, and she's a president and CEO of 1 Million Kids, said on my show that there are over 30 million victims of child sex trafficking worldwide. As of 2013, 1.5 million victims in the United States alone. And as of July 2016, human trafficking has surpassed the illegal sale of drugs. It is a $40 billion a year industry, and it's on the rise in the U.S. That is all 50 states. And you look at Corey Feldman, you look at Elijah Wood, and then there's this total psyop around Ashton Kutcher wearing his Freemason hat, an admitted Kabbalistic practitioner. Interestingly, actually, there was a woman who brought a sexual misconduct suit against the former co-director of the Kabbalah Center that Ashton Kutcher attends. It's a spiritual group whose brand of Jewish mysticism and witchcraft has drawn many celebrity devotees. Well, the Los Angeles County Superior Court jury found Mr. Berg, known in Hollywood as Rabbi to the Stars, liable for inflicting emotional distress on a former follower. Some real perverted stuff involved in the transcripts that I went through, by the way. And she was awarded just under $200,000 in damages by a jury by this rabbi who has espoused teachings rooted in metaphysical principles of Jewish belief. Actually, I did a series that I've also linked called Israel, the Kabbalah, and the Antichrist. So this is what Ashton Kutcher, Madonna, Lindsay Lohan, Demi Moore, many others are followers of this Kabbalah Center. And other members are identified by wearing red string wrist bracelets worn as a talisman. Now, critics in mainstream Judaism accuse the Kabbalah movement of corrupting the ancient esoteric mystic traditions of the faith by taking them out of context and repackaging them with a popular New Age bent. Is it weird that Demi Moore attended the Kabbalah blessing of her ex-husband Kutcher and his new wife Mila Kunis and their newborn baby? Yeah, that's right. They had a Kabbalah blessing of their child. Ashton Kutcher admits to be a Freemason. Freemasonry, one of the secret societies that claim to have illumination or light, but they are in fact full of darkness. Their Gnostic teaching inverts the truth, making Satan the God and God, Jehovah God of the Bible, the enemy. Well, consider what occultist and author Manly P. Hall himself wrote. When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must hereby promise the great spirit Lucifer, prince of demons, that each year he will bring unto him a human soul to do with as he pleases. And in return, Lucifer promises to bestow upon him the treasures of this earth and fulfill his every desire for the length of his natural life. If I fail to bring Lucifer each year the offerings specified, then my own soul shall be forfeit to him. The invocant signs the pact with his own blood. And let's hear what Albert Pike, a 33rd degree Freemason and author of the Evil Morals and Dogma, pretty much the Freemason Bible. Lucifer the light bearer, strange and mysterious, the son of the morning, he bears it, its splendor, intolerable blinds, feeble, sensual, selfish souls. It's the instrument of liberty or free will. They represent this for us. Under the mythological and horned form of the god Pan, a.k.a. Baphomet, the he-goat of the Sabbat, brother of the ancient serpent and the light-bearer of Phosphor, of which the poets have made the false Lucifer of the legend. The true name of Satan, the Kabbalists say, is Yahweh. It's God reversed. For Satan is not a black god, but a negation of God. The Kabbalah imagines him to be a most occult light. Freemasonry, I can tell you, has been proved beyond the shadow of a doubt to be satanic to the core. I've taken a lot of stuff out of Masonic books that have been published by Masonic publishing companies, and I've read a lot of teachings too, by the way. Albert Pike's bold assertion in Morals and Dogma that Masonry is identical to the ancient mysteries, which means that all their teachings in all their books are precisely the same as the ancient pagan satanic mysteries. That's page 624 of Teachings of the 28th Degree. It's conclusively proven that Freemasonry is actually a worship of Lucifer, the light bearer. Of course, since Lucifer and Satan are biblically the same person, Freemasonry is the worship of Satan. When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he steps forward, onward and upward, he must follow in the footsteps of his forefather Tubal-Cain. With the mighty strength of the war god hammered his sword into a plowshare. That comes straight out of Manly P. Hall, 33rd Degree, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. That comes straight out of there. Manly P. Hall admits throughout this that Masonry is the craft, the old name for witchcraft, that all Satanists are assured that if they will join the coven and learn the craft, then they'll control the supernatural power of Satan, just as Manly P. Hall is promising there. And it goes on and on about revelations of Tubal-Cain. You guys can look that up. In fact, in the 3rd degree of Master Mason, Tubal-Cain is the password given. If you read Morals and Dogma or any writings by either one of Manly P. Hall or Albert Pike, and the symbolism, you would know that this is major, deep satanic occult. And as you look closely at the Baphomet, which is a big symbol of theirs, you see the emphasis is on sex, as this being is androgynous, both male and female. Where do you think the transgendered agenda comes from? It has the breasts of a woman and the erect phallus. In fact, 2 serpents are often shown coiled around the erect phallus. Need I say more? The being that has the head of the horned god, Pan the horned god, another name for Baphomet, another name for Satan. Masonic and Occult Symbols Illustrated, Dr. Burns says, the caption states that he is the horned god of the witches, symbol of sex incarnate. And if you look carefully, you can see the Baphomet making the sign of the devil's triad with his right hand. Baphomet is also known as the Sabbataic goat, in whose form Satan is to be worshipped at the witches' Sabbath. And that is out of Frank Gainer's Dictionary of Mysticism, 1953. And then, of course, we know that the Baphomet is usually approved as the symbol of the Church of Satan. And, of course, Albert Pike linked Baphomet with the goat of Mendes. Obviously, very satanic symbol. The pentagram used by the Eastern Star, which is also used for Star of David, the Eastern Star, which is the Freemason symbol. And back to Madame Blavatsky, the founder of the House of Theosophy, whose books were all written by her demonic guiding spirit in a form that's called automatic writing. I talk about this also in Green Gospel, very similar to Alice Bailey, who wrote the 25-plus volumes of the occult. Very similar. Anyway, Blavatsky ties Thoth and Hermes together. Hermes, the god of wisdom, also called Thoth. They're interchangeable. Saturn, Set, Thoth, it's all the same. In her book, Isis Unveiled, Volume 1, Blavatsky talks about Set and Thoth, Hermes, the god of wisdom. She talks about the first Hermes was the intelligence of the word of God, moved with compassion for a race living without law. God sent to man Osiris and Isis, accompanied by Thoth, the incarnation or terrestrial repetition of the first Hermes, who taught men the arts, science, alchemy, and the ceremonies of religion, and then ascended to heaven or the moon. And you know what I find highly interesting? That Blavatsky, like Anton LaVey in the Satanic Bible, had no trouble trying the infernal name Thoth with Satan. Remember Pike's words that Masonry is identical to the ancient mysteries. This statement means that the Freemasons believe the ancient mysteries and worship the same God, Satan, albeit under different names. Even Islam worships the moon god. Look at their flag. So it's not really surprising we can see all these helly, weird minions that are following all these weird occultic mystery religions, such as Freemasonry. They follow Aleister Crowley, has had such widespread influence on this counterculture turns of the 20th century as this Cambridge-educated occultist. And of course, we talked earlier about the inventor of the religion of Thelema, Aleister Crowley. According to Crowley, he isn't finished yet either. He said 1,000 years from now, and this is what he wrote, the world would be sitting in the sunset of Crowleyanity. The self-aggrandizing Crowley called himself the Great Beast 666. Like I said, he had many influences on Walt Disney, and he had many other tongue-in-cheek apocalyptic titles as well. The British press dubbed him the wickedest man in the world. Also, the title of a documentary, a 4-part BBC series on the famously sinister figure, they called him the Master of Darkness. And he's probably most famous for his dictum, "Do what thou wilt." In one book, we're told by the author that Crowley was a black magician, a drug fiend, sex addict, and traitor to the British people. His creepy Faustian sex magic weirdness and his practices derive from a synthesis, a real cornucopia of Eastern religions and ancient demonology, really produced a very strange, eclectic mishmash. He traveled the world conducting black magic rituals, writing textbooks on magic, founding esoteric orders, and interacting with some of the most significant artists and occult thinkers of his time. As a poet, he actually published some of the most scandalous verses yet printed under the name of George Archibald Bishop in 1898. And during his brief sojourn into the occult society Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, he exerted some influence on William Butler Yeats, and it's even possible that Crowley may have inspired the rough beast of Yeats, the Second Coming. He's indirectly connected to the development of the jet propulsion system through his American protege, rocket scientist Jack Parsons, and guess who else he was involved with? Parsons' partner in magic and later betrayer, the king of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard. Crowley rubbed elbows with, of course, Aldous Huxley, the author of Brave New World. And after his death in 1947, his life and thought played a role in the work of people such as William S. Burroughs, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Ozzy Osbourne, Timothy Leary, and countless others. Crowley pops up in Hemingway's A Moveable Feast as well, and he's inspired a number of other literary characters in, for example, The Magician and Christopher Ishwood's A Visit to Anselm Oaks. Because of Crowley's sexual rituals, drug consumption, and black magic dabblings, he, by the way, introduced the letter K at the end of magic to differentiate it from the entertainment kind. He was maligned and heavily criticized by the press during his lifetime, but declassified documents have since surfaced that the Great Beast 666 actually led a double life. What did he do? Apparently he had ties with the British government and worked with the British intelligence and high-ranking members of the United States government. Crowley also became a high-ranking Freemason, joining several lodges and acquiring several Masonic degrees. He talks about in his autobiography, and he also talked about his Kabbalistic knowledge, which was quite already profound before he reached the 33rd Scottish Rite in Mexico. Of course, Crowley, the Book of the Law, the Thelema, and was the high priest for a new religion that came called the Age of Horus, where he talks about himself being reincarnated as the god Horus, presiding for the next 2,000 years over the evolution of the consciousness of the planet. Well, it was very similar to Alice Bailey and Helena Blavatsky. He was often channeled too by a demon named Awaz. He gave him insight into Thelema and the magic of obelisks. Crowley and his protege Kenneth Grant, who also inspired some of today's Hollywood, said that Thelema would describe the spirit of the next 2,000 years. Listen to what he says here. In the Aeon of Horus, the dualistic approach to religion will be transcended through the abolition of the present notion of a God external to oneself. The two will be united. Man will no longer worship God as an external factor, as in paganism, or as an internal state of consciousness, as in Christianity, but will realize his identity with God. The new Aeon of Horus, based on the union of the male and female polarities, will involve the magical use of semen and ecstasy, culminating in an apotheose of matter in the realization of the old Gnostic notion, there's Gnosticism, is not dual but with one spirit. The old Gnostic notion that matter is not dual but one with the spirit, symbolized by the androgynous Baphomet of the Templars and the Illuminati. That's on page 9 of the Book of the Law. And unlike most historical figures who lose their relevancy as the years go by, Crowley's influence is steadily increasing. The world's elite, predominated by Illuminist values, are in perfect accord with Crowley's Thelema. You see it again with Katy Perry Bon Appetit. You see it in Marinka Abramovich's art. You see it in her rituals. Crowley's vision of a new eon also coincides with the Illuminists' age-old plan for a secular new world order ruled by an enlightened elite. The wording might be different, but the hermetic philosophical background is just the same. You could say that Crowley and the establishment see eye to eye on the subject, and this eye is the Eye of Horus. Masonic and Illuminati imagery, indeed that which is taken, and this goes right back to the occult symbols that are so popular in the movie and music industry. Mind control, MK Ultra, testing various mind control techniques behind government closed doors, using drugs and forms of torture. Oh, yes. In fact, in 1979, ABC's News Close-Up devoted an entire program to exposing the CIA's involvement. And I haven't really even scratched the surface of this yet. You'd have to wonder what the public reaction would be to satanic rituals in the Grammys or the Super Bowl, or Netflix episodes about cannibalism, or a video from Katy Perry on torture. 10 years ago, such suggestions would have seemed absolutely outrageous. Our parents and grandparents would have took to the streets over stuff like this. They would have descended on our leaders like a swarm of mad locusts. But you know what? Today, given the current trends, even the church doesn't bat an eye over this stuff. They don't even bat an eye over the sexualization of our children, particularly young girls who watch these Katy Perry videos. Satanism, occultism, thelema, spirit cooking, MK Ultra, pedophilia is the order of the day in Pizzagate, and no one bats an eye, and the media won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. This is a growing epidemic, folks. The time for silence is over. Please do like and share this video, and make sure you are subscribed on my YouTube channel. Thank you for taking the time out to watch this video, and make sure you comment below. And don't forget to watch The Disney Deception and Gods in Spandex, as I chronicle a lot more of the ancient deities that were talked about in this film as well. You can also send me an email at weekendvigilante@gmail.com. For more great videos, you can also bookmark my website and how to listen to my show at weekendvigilante.com. We'll see you next time.